More of a team player, I repeated slowly. I tried very hard to keep my voice calm and steady. But under the desk, my hands were clenched tightly into fists. My boss, Cashin Rourke, leaned back in his big swivel chair. The chair rolled a little as he leaned back. He had that same confident smile on his face that he always had, the kind of smile that made it look like he already knew he had won the conversation. "Look, Aurelia," he said in a calm voice. "You are very good at your job. No one is questioning that. You work hard and you get great results." He paused for a moment and folded his hands together. "But Marielle," he continued, "she has something special. She lights up the room when she walks in. She talks with everyone. She makes people feel comfortable. She laughs and jokes with the team. She's just easier to work with." Then he added one more thing. "Sometimes you focus too much on performance. That was the reason. Not because I had done a bad job. Not because I was missing any skills. Not because I had failed at anything. The only reason was that I did not talk enough in the break room. I had worked at Phoenix Analytics for 6 years. I joined the company when I was 29 years old, right after I finished graduate school. I remember how excited I was on my first day. I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to prove that I could help the company grow. Now I am 35 years old. During those 6 years, I helped Phoenix Analytics grow in many ways. I helped bring in big business deals worth millions of dollars. I improved the company's systems so projects could move faster. I found ways to reduce company costs by more than 30%. Many teams depended on the systems I had built. Many clients trusted the plans I created. But even after all that work, I was sitting in my boss's office being told that someone else had earned the promotion. That person was Marielle. Marielle often came to the office late. Sometimes she left early too. She liked to walk around the office and talk with everyone. And she laughed loudly whenever the executives made jokes. I looked at Cashin quietly. He started shuffling some papers on his desk, pretending to be busy. It was clear that he expected me to simply nod my head and accept the decision. But I did something different. I opened my satchel and slowly pulled out a white envelope. "I understand," I said calmly. Then I placed the envelope on his desk. "Thank you for being honest." Cashin looked surprised. He raised one eyebrow and picked up the envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "My resignation," I answered. "It will be effective 2 weeks from today." His face changed very quickly. The confident smile disappeared. "Aurelia, wait a minute," he said quickly. "Let's not rush into something like this." "It's not rushed," I replied calmly. "You are right about one thing. I do focus on results. And that is exactly why I am leaving." What Cashin did not know, and what nobody in the office had ever noticed, was something very important. While I was helping the company succeed, I was also quietly building something of my own. Over the last few years, I have started my own consulting business. It was already fully built. It already had funding. And it was already making money. I was not leaving Phoenix Analytics because I had lost. I was leaving because I was ready for something bigger. As I walked out of Cashin's office, I could feel many people looking at me. The office was on the 18th floor of a tall building in Manhattan, and news traveled very fast there. Some people whispered to each other. Some people stared at me. I could almost imagine Marielle already thinking about taking my desk and decorating it the way she liked. But I stayed calm and walked back to my seat, because I knew something they did not know. Inside that envelope was not only my resignation letter. There was another paper inside too. And that second paper was going to make Cashin very nervous. The next 2 weeks went exactly the way you might expect. Marielle walked around the office like she was the most important person there. She laughed loudly. She visited every department. She told people about her new title again and again. One morning she walked over to my desk. Then she sat right on the corner of it. "Aurelia," she said with a small smile, "I hope you're not upset about the promotion. I mean, I know you worked really hard for it." I looked up from my computer screen. At that moment, I was finishing the download of every report, every chart, and every project record that I had created during the past 3 years. I was not stealing anything from the company. My standards were much too high for that. I was simply saving proof of the work I had done. "No hard feelings, Marielle," I said calmly. "I'm sure you will do great." She smiled happily. She really believed she had won. But she did not know the whole story. The amazing results everyone praised me for had not only come from the company's normal tools. 3 years earlier, I had become frustrated with the slow project management system that Phoenix Analytics used. It was a waste of time. It caused confusion, and it made simple tasks much harder than they needed to be. So I started creating a better system. At first it was only a small tool that I used for my own projects. But over time, it grew into something much bigger. It became a powerful data-driven system that could track progress, organize tasks, and improve efficiency. 6 months earlier, I had filed a patent for it. And just 1 week ago, the patent had officially been approved. In the second page of my resignation letter, I had explained everything clearly. I showed how this system had helped the company save millions of dollars. I showed how it had helped keep important clients happy. About a week later, something interesting happened. I received an email from Adrian Blackwood. He was the CEO of Solstice Tech. Solstice Tech was Phoenix Analytics' biggest competitor. Adrian had heard that I was leaving my job. He asked if I would like to meet for coffee. I agreed. But that meeting quickly turned into something much more serious. Instead of offering me a normal job, Adrian offered me something bigger. He offered me a partnership. He promised that I would have full creative control over my systems. He also offered me equity in the company. Then he placed a contract on the table. "We have been waiting for someone like you," he said. "Someone who understands that results matter." I read the contract carefully. Then I signed it. At that moment, I realized something very important. That was what real recognition felt like. On my final day at Phoenix Analytics, I walked to the security desk to return my company badge. Just as I was about to leave, Cashin called me into his office one more time. This time he looked very different. His confident attitude was gone. Instead, he looked worried. "Aurelia, we need to talk about this report you attached to your resignation," he said. He was holding the papers in his hands, and they were shaking a little. "Why didn't you ever tell us about this system?" I sat down calmly across from him. "I did tell you," I said. 3 times, actually. I asked for meetings to discuss plans for improving the company's efficiency. But you told me that the company wanted to focus more on building a friendly team environment. Cashin looked down at the papers again. His face became paler as he read more. "This system is incredible," he said quietly. "The cost savings, the automation, the client satisfaction numbers. And you already patented it?" "Yes," I said. 6 months ago. And I have accepted a leadership position at Solstice Tech. They are very excited about using this system in their global operations." Cashin leaned back in his chair. "Solstice Tech," he said. "Aurelia, you can't do that. They are our biggest competitor." "What about loyalty?" I laughed softly. "Loyalty?" I repeated. "You mean the loyalty you showed when you gave my promotion to someone who can't even finish a weekly report on time?" I stood up. "Or the loyalty you showed when you ignored my ideas because I was not loud enough in meetings?" He opened his mouth to speak, but I continued. "If you had paid attention to my work instead of who laughed at your jokes, things might have turned out very differently." "We'll match their offer," he suddenly said. "We'll promote you to senior director. Just stay." I shook my head. "This is not about a title," I said. "It's about respect. It's about being seen." Then I walked out of his office for the last time. Behind me, I could hear him quickly calling upper management. He was trying to fix the situation. But it was already too late. The patent belonged to me. The contract had already been signed. And Marielle was about to learn something very important. Taking credit for work is easy. Actually doing the work is much harder. Later that evening, while I was packing my things, I noticed a sticky note on my computer. It said, "Sorry to see you go. Keep in touch. Marielle." I smiled slightly. Then I crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. Oh, Marielle would hear my name again. Soon the whole industry would. My first day at Solstice Tech felt like stepping into a completely different world. There were no small cubicles. There were no flickering lights. Instead, I had a large corner office with a beautiful view of the Hudson River. On the door was a glass nameplate that read, "Aurelia Knox, Director of Operational Strategy and Innovation." But the biggest change was not the office. And it was not the title. The biggest change was the way people treated me. Adrian Blackwood called a meeting with the entire staff to introduce me. But it was not a boring announcement. He told everyone about my work. He explained the systems I had created. He praised my ideas and my results. Then he said something that made the room very quiet. "Aurelia is not just joining our company," he said. "She is bringing a powerful system that saves time, reduces costs, and keeps clients happy. She has my full trust. And I know she will have yours too." The difference between Solstice Tech and Phoenix Analytics was huge. At Phoenix, I felt invisible, like a ghost who quietly fixed problems while others took the credit. But here, I was the person building the future. And for the first time in many years, I truly felt seen. 3 months later, I experienced my real moment of victory. I was leading an important strategy workshop when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Mateo Silva. He was one of the few coworkers at Phoenix that I respected. "You might want to check the business news," he wrote. "Something big just happened to Phoenix Analytics." I stepped out of the meeting and opened my laptop. The headline made me pause. Phoenix Analytics loses 30% of its clients after major business collapse. The article was harsh. Projects were delayed. Budgets were broken. 3 of their biggest clients had already left. Their internal systems were described as outdated and broken. But one quote caught my attention. Maximilian Drake, CEO of Terranova, said, "We used to trust Phoenix with large projects. Now they cannot even give us simple timelines. It feels like they lost the backbone of their operations." I leaned back in my chair and smiled. They had, because I was that backbone. The systems they depended on were the ones I had spent years carefully building. And Marielle had no idea how to maintain them. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Mateo. "Marielle is having a meltdown in the break room." I looked out the window at the sunlight filling my office. I did not feel angry. I did not feel the need for revenge. Because I had something much better. I had results. And sometimes the best answer you can give the world is simple. Success. I set my phone down and gave a small smile. Marielle had spent the last 2 years trying very hard to make herself look impressive. She copied ideas from other people, used big fancy words, and smiled a lot during meetings so everyone would like her. Many people believed she was doing great work. But now something different was happening. Now she had to handle the work alone. There was no one to copy and no one to hide behind. Cashin, who had trusted her friendly personality more than her real skills, was now watching the results of that decision happen right in front of him. While all of that was happening at Phoenix Analytics, I had much more important things to think about. At Solstice Tech, the system I had built was doing incredibly well. It was not just working, it was changing how the company did everything. Projects that used to take a very long time are now finished much faster. In fact, many projects were done in less than half the time they used to take. Our clients were happier than ever before. They were giving us higher satisfaction scores than we had ever received in the company's history. Inside the company, our teams were working faster, smarter, and more efficiently. Everyone could see that the system was making a huge difference. Adrian had already approved my plan to expand the system across the entire company. Soon every department would be using it. At the same time, we had also started talking with 3 very large companies that were interested in licensing the platform so they could use it in their own businesses. One cool Thursday morning, about 6 months after I had left Phoenix Analytics, I walked into my office like I always did. But this time I saw Adrian standing next to my desk. He was holding a newspaper and looked excited. "Have you seen this?" he asked as he held the newspaper up for me to read. I took the paper and looked at the big headline on the front page. It said that Phoenix Analytics was going through a major company restructure because many talented employees had left and their main system had failed. I nodded slowly. "Yes, I saw the announcement earlier," I said calmly. "They are tearing the whole place apart." The board finally realized how badly they handled their talent. Adrian nodded in agreement. "They tried to rebuild your system after you left," he explained. "But they didn't really understand how it worked." I already knew exactly what he meant, so I finished his thought. "They believed it was just a simple tool," I said. "But the real power was the thinking behind the system." Adrian smiled at me. It was the type of smile that showed he understood the bigger picture and the long-term value of what had happened. "And that," he said, "is exactly why the board made a decision about your future here." He paused for a moment before continuing. "Starting next week, you will officially become our Executive Vice President of Strategic Innovation. Everyone on the board has seen the amazing impact you have made. They want you to lead the future of this company." Hearing those words made a warm feeling grow inside my chest. This moment felt different from anything I had experienced before. This was what it truly meant to be recognized for your work. Not because of appearances or office politics, but because of real contributions, strong ideas, and meaningful results. Later that same afternoon, as the sun slowly began to set behind the tall buildings of the city, I noticed a new email appear in my inbox. The message was from Cashin Rourke. The subject line simply said, "Apology." I opened the email and began to read. "Aurelia, I hope you are doing well. I'm sure you have already heard about everything that has happened at Phoenix. I wanted to write to you because I need to say something important. I was wrong. Not recognizing your value was the biggest mistake of my entire career. Your system was the backbone of everything we were doing at the company. We did not fully understand that until the entire structure collapsed after you left. I resigned from my position last week. Before I left, I made sure the board clearly understood that our biggest failure was not listening to you. I sat quietly and looked at the screen for a moment. The email continued. Marielle resigned about a month ago. It turns out that managing real work and real responsibilities is much harder than repeating impressive-sounding words during meetings. I know it is too late to change the past, but I wanted you to know that you were right all along. Results truly do matter. I only wish I had understood that sooner. Best regards, Cashin. I read the message twice. There was once a time in my life when a message like that would have meant everything to me. Back then, I wanted people to see my value so badly that I would have held on to those words like a treasure. But that time in my life had already passed. Now I was sitting in my large executive office at Solstice Tech. Sunlight gently touched the frame of my patent certificate hanging on the wall. Behind me was a plaque celebrating the best business quarter the company had ever achieved. Next to it was a recent magazine article from Forbes that named me as one of the top 10 women changing the future of technology. Compared to everything that had happened since leaving Phoenix, Cashin's message now felt like a small note at the bottom of a long chapter. My life had already moved forward. I clicked the reply button and typed a short message. Cashin, thank you for your email. You are right. Results do matter. I wish you success in whatever path you choose next. Aurelia. After sending the message, I slowly looked around my office. Every single thing in this room had been earned through hard work, patience, and belief in my own ideas. Nothing here has been handed to me easily. The next morning, I organized a meeting with the entire team. As people walked into the room, I watched them take their seats. There were engineers, designers, project managers, and leaders from different departments. These were people who truly cared about building something meaningful together. When the room finally became quiet, I stood up to speak. Today we are going to talk about our next major product launch, I said. But before we begin, I want to share a story with you. It is not a story about technology or systems. It is a story about value. It is about learning to recognize the true worth of people. And it is about never allowing anyone else to decide how valuable you are. As I spoke, I noticed people nodding their heads and listening closely. They understood the deeper meaning behind my words. They understood that this company was not built on pretending or politics. It was built on real work, honesty, courage, and the willingness to speak the truth even when it is difficult. Later that evening, while driving home, I passed by the building that used to belong to Phoenix Analytics. I slowed down my car for a moment. The giant company logo that once looked so powerful now appeared faded and old. In one of the upper windows, there was a large sign that said "For lease." They were downsizing again. But I did not feel happy about their struggles. Instead, I felt grateful. Grateful that they had failed to see my value. Grateful that they had pushed me away. Because their rejection forced me to create something better. Sometimes the biggest opportunities in life arrive disguised as rejection. Sometimes focusing strongly on results is exactly what helps someone stand out. And sometimes the best response to being underestimated is to build something so powerful that people cannot ignore it anymore. My phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Matteo. The Phoenix board is asking about you, the message said. They want to know if you would consider coming back as CEO. I looked at the message quietly for a moment before typing my reply. Thanks, Matteo. But I am exactly where I need to be. And I truly meant those words. Because real success is not only about proving other people wrong. It is about proving yourself right. It is about believing in your own potential even when nobody else sees it yet. It is about refusing to make yourself smaller just to fit inside someone else's expectations. When I finally arrived at my Brooklyn brownstone home, I thought about all the other people out there who might be experiencing something similar. Quiet professionals who work hard every day but are often overlooked because they are not flashy or political. Maybe my story could help one of them. Maybe it would give someone the courage to stop waiting for permission and start building their own path forward. Because sometimes rejection is not a barrier. Sometimes it is the beginning of something greater. You take the doubt people throw at you. You take the insults and the criticism, and you use them as fuel to build something stronger. You turn the words "you are not good enough" into "you are irreplaceable." That evening, I sat in my home office reading proposals from companies around the world that wanted to license our now patented system. Above my desk hung a simple sentence that Cashin had once said to criticize me. You are too focused on results. The funny thing was, he had been completely right, and that focus on results had led me exactly where I was meant to be. To leadership, to innovation, to purpose, to the place where my work, my ideas, and my vision could truly make a difference.